in terms of current events, the most recent thing I guess I've heard is the push towards removing fluoride from water. And again, this is something that scientifically goes back to, oh, I'm thinking 50s or maybe 60s, maybe 1960s. But it makes me kind of question, like I said earlier, what is your motivation for doing this? And so, as of this morning, I think Utah was about to be the first state to pass legislation banning fluoride in water. And I feel like with our current, I guess, health cabinet leader or
Yeah.
whatever, I feel like we've heard about measles outbreaks. I had not heard about that since I was a kid. We heard the first death from measles happened in Texas earlier this week. First child to die from having measles, and so I feel like the anti-vax movement, and now, like I said, I hadn't heard of before, but the anti-fluoride in water movement. I'm pretty sure the American Dental Association is not behind that, but um, so I'm saying all that to say, I mean, you mentioned earlier about our allies versus our non-allies versus, historically things that have happened, but I don't even think we can couch what's currently going on in any of that because it's just so this I'm hoping this is a one-off, but in history up to this point it absolutely is. Whether you were pro or anti slavery, North versus South, you can go to any administration prior, and the one thing you will not be able to say is that you did not have a some level of a scholar in office.
Yeah.
Again, whether or not you agreed with, for example, trickle down economics, I think has been disproven over the generations. However, that does not mean that Ronald Reagan was not an intelligent person, was not a well read person, because as we know, he was. So, and I just feel like this is the first time in history where you really have someone who flat out legit has no idea what they're doing. Kind of like in a cartoon, which way did it go? And it would be humorous, except that we're dealing with real lives and a real country and making enemies of real allies. And it's scary. I mean, if I'm being honest, it's scary.
Well, to kind of go off of that, I do think, as much as I don't think our current president is necessarily a scholar, I do think he knows exactly what he's doing.
Do you?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it just has to do with bringing, and I hate to be the person that sounds like a conspiracy theorist, but it just sounds like he's trying to bring all out. You would think it's like a terrorist or something. Like just the stuff that he is doing that makes absolutely no sense to the average person. And I had some stats that I'm going to bring up a little later, but even the people, the economy that was supposed to be the biggest thing that everybody voted for him this way, you're already seeing that starting to, I don't want to say tank the markets, but the markets are starting to adjust to these policies that he's passing that obviously has nothing to do with economics. And a lot of people were, hopeful of what he was going to do, but this America's America, but when it comes to the rest of the world, America is not running everything. You still have to answer to India, you still have to answer to China. And they're not getting the same propaganda that we're getting here in America that's been kind of going on since the country's been founded. So when you look at a North Korea who is stealing billions or at least over $1 billion in cryptocurrency, they're not thinking, oh, we can't steal from America because they're the greatest country on earth. There are other countries that are willing to call us on our stuff, and you're already seeing that happen. So it's just, again, it's already playing itself out right under our nose. And I go to Bloomberg for quite a bit of basically all of my news because I know they're a trusted source and I've been following them for years. And you have opinion pieces and whatever, but when it comes to facts, it's not like Blaze or some of these other places that are obviously biased, even like a Fox or an MSNBC. This is, they just give you the facts and you can take that for what it is. So when I go to these places like Bloomberg and they're saying, okay, consumer confidence is down, this is down based on this news, you kind of have to look and see, okay, so the economy was supposed to be this much better under President Trump, and first 100 days or so, not even 100 days, we're already seeing all this stuff unfold. So, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of crazy to me.
Well, I don't know. I know that we really haven't developed the audience that we'll have in the future. But I have to say, even with the audience that we have, people who tune in to kind of hear our opinions on things, I would have to say there probably is not a billionaire in our audience yet. So when you say the economy is not getting better, I have to push back a little because I feel like it's getting real good for billionaires. I think that if you look at the news stories that are coming out about, say, for example, Elon Musk and how many billions of dollars he's made just in the first 100 days of the Trump administration, just based on government contracts, that he has, and that is a huge conflict of interest. Um, and coming from a space well below the top level of government in the United States, I can say that I've been discouraged from buying um, a coffee, and I'm not exaggerating, buying a coffee from someone who could potentially make a decision about grant funding that I was pursuing. A cup of coffee. But it's not a conflict of interest to have, multi-billion dollar contracts and everything. So it doesn't, when you say the economy is not getting better, the economy for the majority of Americans is not getting better. And I don't feel like it will. But then I don't think that was ever the point. Um, I've been hearing conversations kind of based on what you just said from people who, throughout the election cycle for the last national election, were very pro Trump for reasons stated the economy. And we don't want woke people taking over and, usurping the actual meaning and the actual beneficiaries of diversity, equity, and inclusion, which we happen to know statistically. Um, I'll say African Americans because that's what the term the study used that I read are, I want to say fifth in terms of the percentages of people in the United States who have benefited from diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I'll let you and your viewers go ahead and look up who the top four beneficiaries of DEI are. But it's not black people. So I'm just saying. Um, I feel like this is by design. I do not think that we have a traditional. What I'm trying to say without being mean about it is I feel like we have somebody in the White House now who is all about being vindictive and nanani boo boo and I can do whatever I want and having temper tantrums and everything. So no, I don't think in the main scheme of things that person knows exactly what they're doing. I think they are on some levels bat poop crazy, and I think the people surrounding them pretending like they're not crazy are doing that for their own gain.
Yeah. And I think you are starting. I think that's really. And it's the same thing with Elon Musk, I feel. These people are billionaires. They are basically what the American success story is in terms of in the eyes of America. You know what I mean? They've made it, quote unquote.
Well,
They
their
have,
parents made it, but
yeah. But they're in this own little field of they've done everything, they can buy whatever they want. Now, what else can I do? I still can't necessarily buy up a country, but at the same time, you kind of see with how the election cycle panned out, that some people can buy the election at least. So, like Elon Musk, he's put himself in this position where he feels like, okay, I spent all this money to make this man the president. Now I have a power that no money could buy me. But what you're going to see is you really can't have it both ways, especially if you're not careful. And that's what I've been seeing recently when it comes to, I mean, EVs were going down anyway after the initial influx because they were the new thing. They were cool. They had all this technology. But a lot of your EV buyers are in California, and California's a more liberal state for whatever reason. So you're seeing those sales start to plummet. And I just was looking at info about that this morning. So where you're gaining all this power as an Elon Musk in the government space, where you're supposed to be more lenient government, less government, you're already starting to see your private equity kind of come down in terms of your net worth because tech's looking kind of weird right now.